somebody said. Oh, Peter, is this your phone? Okay, I'm bringing it to you. All right. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know I'm the last speaker, holding you back from the beer, but the next 10 minutes is really important to me. As Peter mentioned, we're one step away from the next Trump in this country potentially taking over. And I can tell you what that looks like in Iran, a country that is based on theocracy, that's based on religion, that got into power promising an Islamic republic that's neither Islamic or a republic. Why is it not Islamic? Look at the countries in the region. Look at United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Turkey, where women have rights. They can have equal rights to men. Did you know in Iran that women have half the right of a man when it comes to courts? When they feel justice, their word is only worth half a man's. It's not about just hijab or the head covering. It's about the fact that if they have children and get divorced, the child automatically goes to the father. It's because they can't go outside of the country without their husband's permission. Now, for the past 43 years, you've been seeing images, and they've been propagating all over media outlets of Iranians walking on Israeli and American flags. I can tell you, they've been lied to by a theocracy. They didn't know any better. They thought their problems were caused from the outside, not from the theology that they followed. The interesting thing is, today's revolution in Iran, and I call it a revolution and a regime change, is because of young, new generation that grew up under the mullahs, that grew up under this theocracy, and doesn't want to have anything to do with it. They're the 15 to 22-year-olds that go out in the street, stand up to the police, that intimidate them, and beat them up with their bare hands, just to make sure that the regime doesn't stay the same. They do this thing called Amon Padi, or they take the mullah's turban and they flicker it off and they run. And it gets the mullahs really pissed off. In Iran, there's been 400 deaths. 400 deaths between Mahsa Amini, who started the movement 8 weeks ago, to 15,000 political prisoners, 30 jailed journalists that are now in prison, and of course, the parliament, being a republic, has voted overwhelmingly to sentence the political prisoners to death. 227 of the parliamentarians have decided to issue a letter encouraging the sentence of death for these protesters. Now, remind you, these protesters are 15 to 22 years of age, and are young and are brave. So, what happens with social media? Where's the media outlets? They shut down the internet. You guys talk about Internet Archive and Secure Drop and, all the technology that's coming out of the hackathon. Well, they can't access any of it. They can't get online. I can't talk to my cousins in Iran. Why? Because there is no internet. I can't use WhatsApp. I cannot use Instagram. I cannot use social media, and neither can they to communicate. The whole country's internet is shut down. So, when you think about what's going on in Iran, you might wonder, well, what can I do to help? What is there that I here in the US can do? Iranians are not asking for a moment of silence. I didn't come here to ask you to please hold your breath and stand up tall and hold a moment of prayer for us. That's not what we want. Iranian Americans in the diaspora and Iranians in Iran want you to be their voice, want you to reach out to journalists and media. If you're a part of a nonprofit, if you represent a nonprofit organization, you should write about what's taking place in Iran. Digital rights are human rights. Women rights are human rights. The message of leading with woman, life, freedom resonates with every woman. If you have a daughter, of course we all had a mother. If you have a sister, if you have a cousin, it should resonate with you. I'm not saying the Iranian men aren't taking their part. For 43 years, they tried one way or another to fight this regime. They're in the street, they give full credit to the women, and they walk behind them in their support, and the fact that they want to have freedom from this regime. This is just not a problem in Iran. If you look at Saudi Arabia, for example, its neighbors, our ally, look at what's going on there. 2 people that tweeted against the government or retweeted content were jailed for 16 and 34 years, respectively. Saudi Arabia is the 2nd largest investor in Twitter. The MBS was responsible for the death of Khashoggi. And now they put $1.9 billion in Twitter. Twitter was just fined in May of this year $150 million for opening up private data to advertisers. Let me ask you, with Qatar owning 375 million, MBS of the Saudis owning 1.9 billion, how safe do you feel about their blue badge? I'm sure you all got one. Why should activists around the world use that platform? Why should anybody trust their data to Elon Musk? And this is before Elon's purchase. Imagine being an activist in Twitter in Iran or Saudi Arabia or Ethiopia and using one of these platforms when you need to be verified to get your story heard. And the consequences is you get verified and you'll be killed, imprisoned, tortured, raped. That's what happens when people post on social media. So please don't take for granted the rights we have in this country, the free speech that we have, the fact that we have Internet Archive, sites that we can post our content on, because that freedom and that right does not exist in places like Iran. Get involved, spread the message, ask media companies to cover these stories, share it, sign the petitions. Amnesty International put out a great petition that's got over 1 million signatures. Having Iran deal fairly, but it's the people that are protesting to treat them humanely. Just remember, if nothing else, the person who started all this 8 weeks ago died because her hair was not properly covered. The veil or the hijab went down to here as opposed to fully down. She was taken by the morality police in front of her brother. So she was with somebody who she knew. Imagine being raised in a country that's based on Islam and based on faith, but that whatever they thought you wasn't enough, that you need to have a morality police to arrest you, jail you, to put you in a van, to beat you up and kill you. That's what Iran is like today. Iranians are not just in sorrow. There's a sense of joy, there's a sense of pride, because Iranians from all classes, across different ages, in and outside of Iran, in the diaspora, are speaking up, they're taking to the streets. Join us. We are your colleagues, we're people that you depend on, we're your lovers, your neighbors. We contribute to this community. Don't let our voices become silent. Help us carry the message that human rights and women rights, and digital rights need to be respected across the world. Thank you.